Hello and welcome to the fourth of our Let's Talk Leadership live conversations. And again, we're trying something new in that we have two of our friends from India joining us this morning, or for them this afternoon. So we have Shruti Padmanabhan and we have Astha Singh, who started working with us as coachees only a few weeks ago now, but it's lovely to see you both, and thanks for making time available. They both work for the Nandi Foundation in India, and we'll probably find out a little bit more about what the Nandi Foundation does. And also we have Lisa. She runs the Global Nomad World Foundation in Brussels, so she's calling in from Brussels today. Lisa, great to see you. And also joining us on the call is Jane Miller, who's a longtime friend and colleague of Britain Eyes. And Jane is actually helping to coach for Let's Talk Leadership and is coaching, I'm pretty certain you're coaching Astha, is that correct, Jane? Yeah, great. So we've got a real mix. We don't know where the conversation's going to go. Britt is with us as well. So for the next half hour, we're just going to have a chat about anything that we want to talk about. And if you want to join us live on the chat, then please do on YouTube. And feed your questions to us or challenge our thinking, and we'll do our best to try and respond in a suitable way. But we want the conversation to be interesting, challenging, and just sharing views, given the circumstances that we're all in at the moment. So I don't know how we're going to get started, but maybe Shruti, Astha, could you tell us a little bit about the Nandi Foundation? Just, what you do in India, because I know it's massive and you're heavily involved in all of it.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm based out of Hyderabad in India, and our Nandi head office is in Hyderabad. I've been, over the last 3 years, I've been associated with different projects under Nandi's girls portfolio. So right now I'm working with Project Nanikali, which is a girl child education program where we sort of look at providing after school academic support to girls from underprivileged communities. So we work with girls from classes 1 to 10, different parts of India, rural and urban both. And we have classes that take place after school hours where they come to centers and they have tutors who we call community associates who are from the community itself, who help them with their math, English, and language for 2 hours a day. Now, the idea behind Project Nanikali was to give girls an opportunity to start to finish their education till class 10. Because what we were finding was that I think Nanikali started almost 20 years ago. And when the project did start, girls were not getting enrolled into school. So it started with the intention that how do we improve enrollment of girls? What are the things that girls in these communities need in order to be a part of school? So they realized that, of course, after school academic support was a big thing. But what else? So material support, social support. So material support in the sense that all of the girls who are part of the program get a kit in which they get notebooks, pencils, socks, sweaters, raincoats, sanitary napkins for older girls, things which we found over the years without which girls were not able to come to school because their parents weren't able to sort of afford that. While government education was free, these additional costs used to kind of not allow them to be a part of school. So that's why we introduced material support. And of course, social support is a big thing because, the attitude towards girl child education was not great. It's changing. It's definitely changed. We're seeing more girls in school. And I think right now, our hope is to help, is to, improve retention and quality of education. So these are some of the things that we do at, with Project Nanikali. And there's one other project under the girls portfolio, which is the Nanikali Graduate School. And I'd ask Astha to speak a little about that because she was associated with it.
Great, thanks, Astha. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you, Shruti. It's an honor to be here, to be a part of this conversation. So yeah, Shruti and I both work for Nandi, which is an NGO and has been in this area for last 2 decades now. And Nandi has 3 verticals in which we especially work for, which is the youth, for the girl child, and for farmers. So like Shruti said, she works for girl child. I have been, associated with youth as well. So I started with a project of Nandi, which is called Mahindra Pride School. where we train disadvantaged, socially disadvantaged youth for next 3 months in certain verticals like retail or hospitality, and then we give them 100% placements. So I started my career in Nandi via that job, being as a coach there. And then I shifted to another program, which is called Nanhi Kali Graduate School, which is again an upgrade of Project Nanhi Kali, where after we did a survey, we found out that most of the girls, they wanted to become a graduate, but because of any of the reasons, it can be because they were the finance were not great, or, they were getting married at an early age, or their family were not allowing them to become a graduate. So any of these reasons were one of the main reasons became for them, via which, they couldn't become a graduate. So that was one thing. So via this program, we are planning, we have an aim that, every girl in India who wants to become a graduate should become a graduate through us. So whether they are dropouts or they are associated with any government universities, if they need any sort of help, it can be in their studies as well. If they need another tuition or extra thing, if they find any subject, little tough or something, we go and we give them tuition as well in college, as well as they come to our center also. So it's a 3-year long program. So yeah,
it's amazing. Now I know a little bit about it, but a lot of the people listening to this conversation won't. Some of the numbers are huge, aren't they? Just give us a flavor for how many people, how many young women, for a start, are you actually working with?
The Project Nanhi Kali, I can say, I think it's more than 1 lakh girls.
Yeah, about 1,65,000 girls
65,000
currently being supported.
Yeah, and how many families or young people, in a very underprivileged situation are you helping?
Yeah, so also our community associates are a big part of the project, and Project Nanhi Kali has 8,000 community associates. It's anything between, sometimes it's I think I would say 7,000, 8,000 community associates, and it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and Lisa, you kindly introduced us to Nandi, which was fantastic a few months ago. But I'm still not hearing the numbers that I think are truly amazing. So, I mean, your connection with Nandi and Global Nomad, how does that work?
Yeah, hi Matthew. I'm so very excited to be connected with the Nandi Foundation in India. And it's so wonderful to hear from both Shruti and Astha to hear about the Nanhi Kali program. And there's I love that they said crores. So there's over about 150,000 girls age 6 through 15 involved in this program. And of course, I've been involved the last 2 years on the sports end. We're introducing kind of a sports for life program with these girls. But just on the topic of leadership, as we know, this is part of this discussion. My experience with Nandi and what I really cherish from the way that organization works is they give the opportunity, for instance, for both Shruti and Astha to really at a young age take on leadership positions. I think this is such a wonderful aspect of that organization.
Wow.
And just to add to those numbers, so underneath all of these CAs that Shruti is talking about, these are all female woman leaders. Wow. Of the organization. You're talking about 6,000 to 7,000 women that are offered an opportunity through Nandi to take leadership positions.
Gosh.
Yeah, amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so Shruti and Astha, I mean, when we first contacted you and obviously we spoke to Rohini as well, and these numbers were just beyond anything that certainly I think the rest of us would have, well, apart from Lisa, might have experience of. We might talk about a few hundred, or we might work with an organization. I think the largest organization I've worked with professionally has 400,000 employees, but even there are only about 2,000 in their sort of leadership group and at the level. And to talk about the numbers that you're working with, supporting, it's tremendous. So what are some of the challenges you face, you know, as young leaders? What are some of the things that, you know, apart from the pandemic, which we're all having to deal with, what are some of the challenges that you both face?
Yeah, you know, what happens is because I'm so involved in the project, sometimes I don't realize the numbers. You know, I think sometimes when people talk about it, or if, you know, I'm working on a document, or I read somewhere that, oh, you know, the sports program, we worked with 37,000 girls, or currently we're working with 150,000 girls. I'm like, oh, that is a big number. But I mean, I would say kudos to the team on the field, because, you know, every location in Project Nanikali, they have program officers who manage an entire location, and then they have coordinators who sort of work with the community associates. So there are these different groups of people who are working to like effectively make sure that the project is working well on the ground. And, you know, we just do a lot of coordination work. Yeah, sometimes it's challenging because there are multiple locations, but I would say that the team makes it really easy. And they're all like born leaders. The way they manage their teams, the way they effectively communicate what are the needs, challenges, the good stuff as well, is incredible. And that's what makes it easy for me. I would say the most challenges I'm facing, even though you said, like, I mean, apart from the pandemic, I think during the pandemic is when we're really facing a challenge. But because, like, when we're in the field, when we're on the ground, and when the teams are all sort of coming together, you know, you have groups of training which have like 100 participants, and they somehow manage to do it really well. They've been doing it for so long, and they just train batch after batch. They have a system for, you know, even the centers where the girls come to learn. Everything is already in place. Of course, the initial teething challenges are always there, but I feel like it's been like they have really handled it well. I feel as leaders, I mean, or like, people who are working with the communities, I think what's important for us is to really ensure that we are listening to everybody, whether it's a community associates, the coordinators, the program officers, everyone has insights to share. I would say that sometimes it's difficult to listen to everyone, what everyone has to say, but I feel like going forward, it's very, very important for us to be able to understand what needs to be done better, and to take that feedback and implement it, you know, because the team, because it's such a large scale project, it often happens that, you know, we're working in like a lot of different locations, and we're trying to, you know, do things everywhere. And I feel like for us, and this is something that we have learned in the project, is that you can't have a one size fits all kind of program or project. You have to really tailor it to the needs of that particular location. So I feel like that can be challenging at times, but it's something that definitely needs to be done.
Jane, go on. Yeah.
I was just thinking, building on what Matthew was asking you about, the challenges for you as leaders. I was just wondering, thinking about the little pack that you put together, the material support that you were talking about for these girls going to school. I was wondering, for you as leaders, what would go in your pack because you need to support yourselves. What would you put in your pack that would enable you to handle these challenges that you were talking about?
Astha,
Challenges in our pack, God. I don't know. I just like, I can get 1,000 of things in that pack if I have ever that option. But one thing for sure, you know, like as Shruti said, you know, I also just realized when Matthew keep mentioning, okay, that you are working with such big numbers, then we like actually realize, oh God, like it's actually a big number, you know, we don't realize it because we are constantly working on it, and these numbers increase. So it's like, it's okay for us. But when you hear it from the third person, they're like, oh, wow. One thing for sure, that, you know, working with all these women, being, you know, like most of the countries and some of the states also, you know, really don't appreciate having a woman as a leader. And when all this 6,000, 7,000 girls are like in the field, you know, they are like, have taken the command over all these Nanikali girls. And they're like, no, we are going to make sure, you know, that these girls pass their education. They get the best thing, whatever they need. They get all the facilities. So sometimes it can be challenging. It can be challenging for us also, you know, because you can't be happy 365 days. You know, there are sometimes when you will feel down on it. So that emotion, that thing which they have, and when those stories come across us, and the things, how to handle them at that time, what's the next, the motivation which they need at that time is something which is very important. So one thing, if I can have always in my pack, the thing which I need the most is that amount of motivation, that amount of strength and courage, to again go back into the field and face all of the difficulties which we are facing, and just like stand there, like a tree, that okay, no one can just like lift me from there. So that sort of strength, courage, and the quality is something which I'll definitely have in my pack any day.
And Astha, you're in learning and development, so you seem to have the challenge that you're not only supporting people in the field, but you're also supporting your colleagues in their own development within the foundation. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're doing in the foundation at the moment in terms of learning and development, and perhaps around the subject of leadership?
So learning and development, we used to do it earlier, but now we have finally thought of making learning and development as an individual thing, where everyone can approach to us, and then we can plan from there. Okay, this is something which we need to do with others. So certain things which actually sometimes comes to us, when you're working on something from a long time, every work needs result. So sometimes people are able to do it, but sometimes, they lack in the sense, like not completely lack, but, sometimes, okay, it may not be as good as they were expecting it. So that gives them certain sort of, like the self-confidence inside them is like, oh no, like, will I be able to do it? Will I be able to perform the next time I get this opportunity? Will I be able to get that opportunity as well? So that sort of the self-confidence, the insecurity which gets into them. And sometimes the thing, the trust issues also. You are like on a daily basis, you are meeting so many people, you are having a one-on-one conversation with them, and you are hearing so many things. So that can affect a person, like it can just take down their moral as well. Like all the strength which I have today, I'm in a very good mood that, okay, I'll finish every work of mine. If at the end of the day, if I'm not able to, then it becomes a big challenge for them. So we try, just give them like small examples. We try to pick examples from themselves only. What you have done in the past, how you did it in the past. And from the ground examples, you can look at a farmer, you can look at a person who is teaching all these girls and everything, and how they do it also. So we just try to motivate them, not, on a theory basis that we have given them something that, okay, just go through it, read it, or go for counseling or something like that. But no, more like a example basis, and just motivate them from themselves only.
Great. And you've just mentioned farmers, because that's another group we've not talked. I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of farmers and their families you're supporting, but I mean, can you put a number on that?
Oh God. Farmers, I guess, like, can't say like farmers. Maybe like 100,000 farmers we are working with, like if we go through like all the projects, because it's huge. Like we are working in Visakhapatnam, there is a valley called Araku Valley. We are working there, and we are working with all the farmers there, and we are growing like the best coffee, which is like award-winning coffee in the world. So yeah, and those farmers, if you go and meet them, like they're like, we produce the best coffee, but that best coffee comes how everything, they'll know every single thing. But the pride in making in that, and everything 100% organic and just transforming lives, also the mountain, the valley, and everything it's like amazing. It's huge, crazy.
I'm just bowled over by it always.
So
every
much.
time we have these conversations, I just can't believe the scale of all of this, and the fact you're both so cheerful all the time and just battling away at it.
I'm actually very happy, like when we are like I work for this organization, we go through this like every single day, but now that when I'm talking about it, I really feel like, wow, like, it's such a good thing.
Yeah. I think for me, like to build upon what Astha said about how the farmers, like they're able to talk with pride about the kind of coffee they're growing, and they know everything that's going on. I think that's a big strength of the organization and the leadership. Because I feel like for me, when I think about leaders, I feel like two things that are very important. One is, of course, to be very empathetic. And the other is to really build personal connections.
Yeah.
And I've seen this of people who work at Nandi's, that wherever they go, when they go on field visits or otherwise, in whatever way they can, they're trying to build those connections with the people that I mean, everybody does this. They're trying to build connections with the people that they're working with. And I feel like that makes a big difference, because you want to feel heard, and you want your views to be heard. And I feel like everybody at Nandi, especially in leadership positions, they really do that, and they push for that. And they try to instill that in all of the young people who work in the organization as well.
Yeah, and by doing so, I would imagine they serve as role models. So you get you get a leadership model, if I may call it that, which enhances the fact that you're all together, and that leadership is sort of a shared process. And by reaching out to other people and empowering them, you motivate them, and you set the tone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk here about leadership qualities and everything, but I think, all the inspiration also, when I think at times like this, comes from them. These are the farmers who earn like 1 lakh rupees per month, like, by growing the coffee, by selling it. And the difference which I can see is if another person earns, like 1 lakh rupees per month, then the sort of change in their attitude, the way they carry themselves, their beliefs and everything changes.
Yeah.
But these farmers, they are like with us from the last 15 years, 20 years, and they are still the same. If you go to them, they'll hug you, they will eat in the same plate as you, they'll just give you what they eat. And they're such simple people. So it's just so heartwarming thing that they are still the same.
And Lisa, you're involved on the sports side with all of this. I mean, tell us a little bit about what you do and the support you get from people like Shruti and Astha when you're out there sort of working with them.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear the voices of both Shruti and Astha with Nandi Foundation. It's so nice, wonderful to hear their views, from their young minds. And I think when I think of what we're doing in sports, it's also overwhelming for me to think we're starting a sports program for 150,000 girls. I mean, it's more of an impact than people have in most places in the world. Let's say you were the head of an education of a school or a group of schools. I mean, the impact you have through the Nandi Foundation is kind of mind-boggling. And I think what the strength of the foundation is, and what these ladies keep mentioning, is that the leadership, it is so not a top-down process in Nandi. It is not about the leadership telling the farmers or the Nani Kali girls or the women who work on the ground how to do something. It's absolutely not about that. It's very much allowing these people who are working in the fields, these women who are working in the schools, to flourish, to empower them. We're supporting them in this journey. It's so not about a top-down leadership process. So I think that Nandi has this wonderful system over decades of how a system of encouraging that, of encouraging all these values from these farmers, these values from the women in the field. And they're the ones that teach us. They're the ones, even in sport, who's telling me, no, this will work better with our girls. And they're absolutely right. They know the girls. They know where they live. They know, what the facilities are like, what the equipment. So this is, I think, a huge key to the success of this foundation.
I just wish, well, I think we ought to actually, with the work that I'm looking at Jane and Britt, we work with organizations, I'm not going to mention names, all the time, where you say, if only you could listen a little bit more to the people in your organization and encourage ideas and exchange views and be prepared to be challenged and to get feedback up through the system, the organization would be so much more successful. And so often it sort of falls on but we still like the hierarchy, or we still like the organizational structures, and I've managed to fight my way to the top and I like being here, and so all of that stuff. Just listening this morning, you think, hey, you know, if you can reach out to the numbers you reach out to and get people working with you as they have done for years and greeting you as friends when you turn up or your colleagues turn up on a farm or in a school, you know, there has to be some real truth in what you're doing, real truth in the way you approach it. It just has to be. Jane.
Yes, and I'm very struck by, you know, when Lisa was talking about the culture of your organization, Shruti and Astha, and what we heard, and then listening to you saying, well, we don't listen enough, we've got to do even more. So there's that humility about what you're actually obviously wonderful at, it's still not good enough. It's that continuous improvement and humility of approach, you know, being absolutely not top down, but learning yourselves, trying to get it better. I'm very struck by that.
Yeah. Britt, have you got a comment you'd like to add? Because I mean, I've rather sort of.
Well, I just keep thinking about what Shruti, you mentioned empathy and the ability to connect, and Jane mentioned humility, and I think those are the hallmarks, if you like, of shared leadership and of good leadership, and of the fact that you reach so many girls and so many women and farmers and men, obviously, as well, so many people in a huge country. I find it mind-boggling, and at the same time, I think, yeah, I wish more organizations and more countries could be like that. It's just, and you can see from your faces how much you love it, how much you love working on it, and how hugely motivating it is. So I think we could, there's a lot of organizations and leaders that could take a page out of your book and apply that. Yeah, wonderful.
And I just listening to you, I mean, we've had a couple of conversations with Michael West, who works for the King's Fund here in the UK, who's incredibly well known internationally, talking about compassionate leadership, particularly within health services, where he spent a lot of his time. He's a professor at Lancaster University. And we've also, just literally yesterday, Britt and I were showing a film clip of Amy Edmondson, who's a Harvard Business School professor, who's done a lot of work on psychological safety, you know, the ability to create an environment where people can speak up and speak out and challenge. And saying how, in both cases, the research shows that in the compassionate side, you get an incredible improvement in motivation, in commitment. You get reduction in healthcare costs. You get people getting better quicker. And on the psychological safety side, you know, she demonstrated that if you can allow people to be part of the conversation, part of the decision making, challenge the system, you get innovation, you get new ideas, you get wealth generation, you get improvement in performance. And listening to you two, and the comments that Lisa's made, you know, this is just the practical reality of doing that stuff. You know, you're demonstrating it day in, day out. I just think it's tremendous. I really do. I think it's tremendous.
Yeah, I would like to add one statement, which like our CEO always says, like, you know, whenever he is recruiting someone new in farming thing in Araku or somewhere, he always says, you know, even a farmer, see, my decision can be the last thing. You know, I'm recruiting you, I can say that, but my farmer also has the complete right, you know, to say no to you. So if you are joining my team, even my farmer who is working for us has whole right. If he says no to you, then I can't say anything. And I can say that we are talking about leadership. I think this is how leadership should be. It is not something, you know, where you can force someone to follow you. Leadership is again something where you want to follow that person because, you know, you think that person, whatever he does or whatever he says is okay and is right for you. So I adore that, and I really believe in it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, you know, we're working with people from very, very diverse backgrounds. And if we aren't able to acknowledge what they are saying or what they need, and this happens, I think sometimes when we're working on projects, we think this is exactly what we're supposed to do. And these are the ideas that we have that we think are going to be super effective on the field. And then you go there and then you talk to people in the community and they say, but haven't you accounted for these things? There's no space, there's no, we don't have the resources. How are we going to do something like that? And it does happen. That sometimes...
Jane's got a shoot, Shruti.
Oh, no.
Just saying
Okay.
About Jane. Thanks, Jane, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks.
Sorry, Shruti, carry on.
No, that's fine. I mean, they will, like, people in the community will tell you that this is what we can do given the resources that are available. Yeah. And it would be foolish to ignore that and then still go ahead. And it happens, we all think that we know because we have read or we have heard or we have seen, but until you have these interactions, until you've really, really understood what the needs are, you're not going to be able to work effectively with communities.
And that's so true. And that is something that we touched upon last week. Do you remember, Matthew, in our talk with the Dutch women, with Noor and Yusra? And one of them works with refugees, and she is involved in policy making for refugees. And she said something very similar to what you're saying, is that it's useless to make policies and to take decisions about groups of people without exactly knowing what they need. And sometimes their knowledge is bigger than yours. And it's just they're in the wrong position, so they can't make the changes. But unless you listen to them, you're going to have the wrong measures in place.
Lisa, yeah.
Just to add to what Shruti mentioned as well, and Britt, and just to give a bit of a perspective on Nandi, as we said, sometimes when your blinders are on, you're working in it, and you don't step back, you forget about not only the size of the project, we have to keep in mind the diversity of the people involved in this project. India is such a diverse country in terms of language. There's 18 different languages in our Nani Kali program. There is talking about cultural, talking about religions. We have girls, Christian girls, we have Hindu girls, we have Muslim girls. It's the religious diversity is incredible. We talk about the Araku Valley, where Astha mentioned the coffee is grown, international coffee. It's a tribal area. It's a tribal area of India that's kind of withstood any other religion, any government interference. It's just to describe the diversity of these people that are part of this program is absolutely incredible.
And none of these farmers are like educated, like they don't have a Harvard degree, Oxford degree, or IIT, none. And still they grow the best coffee. Wow.
And where can you buy this coffee? Can we walk into a shop in London or Oxford or Brussels and buy this coffee?
We definitely have a cafe in Paris and another coming in New York, but you can always order it online.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Well, this has been a joy chatting to you this morning. Yeah. And Astha and Shruti, I know it's tough because you've got busy lives and we've rather sort of flung you into this, but can I just say a big thank you for joining us today, because it's been wonderful hearing what you're doing. And do join us again. Don't feel you're off the hook now, because we'd love to, maybe in the new year, love to get you back and talk about how things are developing. And good luck with the coaching, because I know you're both, Jane is obviously working with Astha, and Sherry, who's possibly listening in on the conversation today, Shruti, is working with you. So yeah. Hopefully you'll get some chance to converse with them. Lisa, thanks for joining us again, and thank you for the introduction originally, all those months ago, because hopefully we can build on this and work more closely with Nandi, but it's been wonderful. So thank you all very much indeed. And Britt, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure for me.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been great. Thank you.
It's been super talking to you.